but everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing...
The Tampa market started to rise.
In Northeast Africa, precisely on the horn of Africa.
Okay, welcome back this morning, family. Once again, this is Frank. I'm your host. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series. I apologize for not being on last week. I know you guys were expecting me, but sometimes things happen, and it was just one of those things. But again, welcome back. So as you come on, please share the live and please subscribe. Please like as well so that we can get more people to follow us on this platform. So today's topic, it says the sounds of U.S. empire crumbling to blame South Africa of weapon to Russia. The sound of U.S. empire crouching down, okay, is failing to blame South Africa, to blame an African nation, to blame the African continent of supplying weapons to Russia. When Russia is one of the countries in the world that have some of the deadliest weapon, if not the first, but the second in the world to have some of the deadliest weapon in the world. So how can it be if Russia is one of the countries in the world, or the first or the second, in between the first and the second, all right, to have weapons of mass destruction? How can South Africa supply Russia with arms and ammunition? Is the United States confused? What is going on with the United States? Is the United States telling the world that she's actually failing? Is the United States telling the world Africa remaining silent and not listening to her means that she's supporting Russia with ammunition? You see, the United States have falsely accused the African continent in so many ways to the extent that she's confused. The United States have falsely accused the world in so many ways, and she took advantage of those falsely accusation against those nations or the African continent to the extent that she does not know how to lie again. To the extent that lies has finished. The United States has run propaganda against the African nations, against the African continent, to the extent that there is no more propaganda. So everything she brings out, it always backfire. It was the same South Africa that the United States accused of terrorists. It was the same South Africa that the United States accused of being a terrorist nation. It was the same South Africa that the United States accused of producing terrorism. So what is going on with the United States? Has the United States run out of business idea? because the United States have run propaganda. The United States have come with all kind of failed agreement. To the extent it's not working, to the extent the African nations, to the extent African people have come to realize that the United States have failed the African people. The United States have failed the African continent. Because for each time she come out with any thought of agreement, she never upholds to her agreement. She always failed the African people. And henceforth, African people began to back off. And if African people back off, all the United States does is come out with fake propaganda, come out with proxy war, come out with coup, all right, come out to undermine African government, come out to undermine African democracy, come out to undermine African leaderships. So Africans are no longer buy into it. So the United States is confused to blame South Africa also. It's like telling people that the African continent is supplying North Korea with weapons. That's just what I mean. Because how will it make sense? How will anybody in the world believe that Africa is supplying South Korea with weapons? When Africa is barely even making weapons. And you blame an African nation just because it supports South Korea against your ill foreign policy, and then come out to say this nation is supporting or is supplying arms to South Korea. When South Korea is the one that have some of the most deadliest weapon in the world. That's just what the United States is telling the world. Just because South Africa stand alone neutrality and says no, the United States enemy is not our enemies. The United States enemy is not our enemy. And just how our enemy is not the United States enemies, so we cannot make enemy just because the United States is an enemy. And it's true. Because nations that are enemies to African nation, the United States is not going against those nations. Because the United States interest or Africa interest is not the United States interest. So if African nations are enemies to any other nation, the United States is not going to say, because this nation in Africa is an enemy to this nation, henceforth we are going to be enemy to that nation. That's not the policy of the United States, and the United States will never care. So if the United States will never care, why should other nations also care about the United States interest? If the United States does not care of any other people's interest, why should other people care about the United States interest? Nelson Mandela told us, America, your enemies will never be African enemies. And just how African enemies will never be the United States enemies, so henceforth, your enemies should not be African enemy. What good for America also good for Africa. Period. So if we want to stay neutral, don't come out with your failed propaganda and then say Russia or South Africa is supplying arms to Russia. It's like saying South Africa is supplying arms to North Korea. What sense does it make? Are you confused? Are you losing your mind? That's how the United States have done it on the African continent. Fear tactics. If not sanction, fear tactics, lies, deceive, undermine government, okay, proxy war, all right, and overtrain government, okay, coup d'etat, and then let's go on. That's the work. That's the framework. That's the script. That's the memo of the United States government of Washington, D.C. But you know, those tactics are failing now. United States, yesterday, when South Africa was carrying on apartheid against the South African, against African, then you support it. Did you stay neutral Did you support South Africa against the killing of Africans? Did you support South Africa when Russia, not Russia, but when Asia were killing Africans? Did you support African? What did you do? You supported Asia to kill Africans. You supported Asia with ammunition. You supported Asia with money, finances to kill Africans. You were never neutral. Rather, you went on the side of the devil. Rather, you went on the side of the enemies. Rather, you went on the side of the demons. And you began to demonize African. You began to kill Africans. African bloods on your hand too. Because your finances were in the destruction of Africans. Okay? Your ammunition were in the destruction of Africans. Your support were in the destruction of Africans. Your encouragement were in the destruction of Africans. You were not neutral. Rather, during that time, the same country, Russia, you want South Africa, you want Africa to turn against. That Russia was there for South Africans. That Russia was there for Africans. That Russia came and rather fought for African. That Russia rather fought against you on the African continent. That Russia rather fought against Israel on the African continent. That Russia rather made some African who lived at that time to bomb. That Russia made it possible for some South African to live, or else they could have died. That Russia. Were you neutral? You were never neutral. Is that a kind of democracy? So why today you want to blame Africans for standing neutral? Why today you want to blame Africans to giving their support to Russia? Because Russia gave their support yesterday to Africans to live, to survive, to fight for another day. That was what Russia did. So that in time period like this, they will stay with Russia too. So that in time period like this, African will stay with Russia because Russia stood with African yesterday. So today, Africans are paying it back to Russia. And yesterday, you did not stand with us. That's why today, we are not standing with you. Can't you get it? Are you confused? You establish friendship. You establish good diplomatic relationship so that tomorrow, when you are done, those people will be there for you. So that tomorrow, when you are less powerful, those people will be there for you. So that tomorrow, those people will be the voice for you. So that tomorrow, those people will be the backbone for you. But no, you did not do it. So what Russia is getting from Africa today is because of what Russia did for Africa when you were against Africans. When you are supporting the killings, the torture, the humiliation of Africans. Why are you acting so confused? You acting that you don't know what you did. You acting that you don't know what you prepared for yourself. Why are you acting that you confused the United States? Let's continue here. Let's get into it. So, we're going to start with South Africa, all right? Because the United States have come out to blame South Africa, okay? I don't want to say blame. The United States accused. That's not blame, okay? I would say accuse. The United States accused South Africa of supporting Russia with arm and ammunition. When Russia is the one rather supporting African nation with arm and ammunition to fight against the devil. But it was just another failed propaganda. All right. So, this article says U.S. ambassador apologized for remark about South African arms supply to Russia. U.S. ambassador apologized for remark about South African arms supply to Russia. First of all, let make this clear. Let make this clear. Hold on. Let me go back here. All right. Now, this is not an apology. All right. This is not an apology. The reason why they pretend to apologize is because African did not keep silent. It's because African did not buy into this. Because many times, many days, they have falsely accused African nations, and African leaders and African people sat down and agreed to it and a hold. But the reason why this did not hold is because African leader came strongly, or African came strongly. African dug the story to find out that it was fake, it was propaganda. And America felt the heat. That so-called of an ambassador felt the heat. That idiot of an ambassador felt the heat. That's how they claim to have apologized. But they are fake. They did not apologize. If they apologize truly for this, they should go back to the past. Everything that they have done, all the propaganda that they have done, they should apologize for it and pay for it. Do you know the implication this could have done to South Africa and the African continent in totality? Did you know? If Africans were not to stand up against this, did you know what was going to happen? This is how the United States have done it, time to time with our numbers, to scramble Africa, to plunge Africa. This is a trademark of the United States. This is a kind of foreign policy the United States does. This is a kind of democracy the United States does on the African continent and some part of the world. This is not a coincidence. This is a fake apologies. And we Africans will not buy into this. The devil will always be the devil. The enemies will always be the enemies. What they do is they find a way to retreat. What the United States did here, that's not apology. They retreated. They just retreated on base to re-prepare or to prepare themselves again for the next one to come. This is not an apology. What they did, they retreated on base for another strategy to come out with. This is not an apology. And I said this to African leaders, and I said this to African authority. This is not an apology. I said this to South African authority. This is not an apology. What the United States did, they just retreated on base. Because this is not the first time for them to accuse South Africa or any African nation. They did it to Nigeria as well. This is what they've been doing on the African continent. But we have been silent for so long. That is why they've been succeeding. This is not an apology. They did this to retreat on base, to prepare for the next one. And the next one might be more than this. The next one may seem to be truth as well. This is not an apology. The U.S. never apologized to African nation, to African people. Even in this country, they fail to apologize to African people. Even in this country, they fail to apologize to Black people. This is not an apology. This is what exactly they do to Black people in the U.S. They add that, they apologize. But what they do is they retreat on base for different strategy. And we should realize that now. But now, let's continue here. Let's go back to the article. Now, the U.S. ambassador apologized for remark about South Africa arms supply. First of all, let me make this clear, all right? Had it been, sorry, folks, I'm not going to read the whole article, and that's why I'm talking like this, because the article is already there, all right? Had it been that it was an African ambassador that made such remark, about the U.S., for example, for instance, the U.S. is the one supplying ammunition in Sudan between the two generals to destroy Sudan, to kill Sudanese, to create proxy war in Sudan. Had it been an African ambassador, or had it been a Sudanese ambassador in America here that made such allegation without evidence, do you think that Sudanese ambassador or that African ambassador will still be in America here, serving as an ambassador to his or her country? I'm just asking a question. Do you think that ambassador who will still be in America, even if the ambassador come out to apologize and say, you know what, I apologize, what I said, or it was not true, I did not do my research well, or it was not factual, I lie. Do you think that ambassador will still be in America? No, let's be frank here. Let's be real. Because what good for America, also good for Africa. What bad for Africa, America also bad for Africa. So what America think a nation cannot do to her, that nation too think America should not do it to her. What America think she can take action against any nation or anyone for that matter of such allegation that is not true. Nation as well should also be in a position to take such action against the United States. I just want for people to see here, because I have watched or I have done some research regarding this, and I'm seeing some South African officials saying that what the ambassador did was wrong, but for people to go as far as saying the ambassador should be expelled back to the U.S. was beyond extreme. So I'm asking those South Africans who have that kind of a colonial mindset, who have that kind of an inferior mindset, to get the concept. Those that say it is extreme to expel the ambassador from South Africa. I just want you to see the reality. Had it been an African ambassador that have said this against the United States, do you think that ambassador would have still been here? Just yesterday, an African ambassador or consular was expelled from Germany after what the German ambassador did against an African nation, interfering in an African elections, mingling in an African affair, and he was expelled from our nation. And the German authority said it was wrong for the ambassador to be expelled, and they said it was right for their ambassador to interfere into the political affair, into the people's national election. So just see what's happening here. So by you saying it is extreme to call for the expel or the removal of the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, it is extreme. Had it been the other way around, do you think American would have said it was extreme? Or do you think American authority would have said it was extreme? They wouldn't have said that. They was going to say, in fact, that ambassador should leave right now because it is a threat to the national security of the U.S. So if it is a threat to the national security of the U.S., why can't it be a threat to the national security of any African nation or to South Africa? I just want you to see the reality here. Some of you South African that say it is extreme to call for the removal of the ambassador. I want you to see the reality. I want you to see the reality. Let's continue here. Now, so he apologized, but that is not an apology. Like I said, what it did was to retreat back on base because their strategy did not work. They knew what they were doing. Look, African, we cannot be complacent all the time. These people knew what they did. They knew what they were doing. So this did not work. This failed. So they retreated, or they have retreated back for a different strategy. All right, let's continue here. All right. South Africa Department of International Relations and Cooperation said late Friday that U.S. Ambassador Ruben Brigatti apologized to the government and people of South Africa for his comment made a day earlier. I don't even want for African to realize one day to say so. I mean, Washington, D.C. have apologized. No, man. Because even if had it been the other way around, with African apologies, with even African kneeling down to Washington, D.C., with even African crying to Washington, D.C., with even African taking latches from Washington, D.C., that African ambassador will still be expelled regardless what. You will leave. You can even sell your national treasure or resources or your mind or your dime to America for that ambassador to stay. You will leave. They will not keep you. You will leave their country. Bigger reporter Thursday that the U.S. was convinced South Africa had supply arms. You see it? The U.S. was convinced South Africa has supply arms to Russia, despite claim to be neutral. So did you see here? This is not even the ambassador. This was the United States government. We are just looking at the ambassador, but this was a planned tactics. It was planned. Only because they saw a Russian ship on the sea coast of South Africa. By the way, let me make this clear. If EU or the United States put sanction on Russia, that does not mean the international world has put sanction on Russia. The US is not the spokesperson for the world. EU is not the spokesperson for the world. You don't make decisions for the world. The United States make decisions for the United States. And the EU make decisions for EU or Europe, not Africa. So if you put sanction on Russia, that's not Africa putting sanction on Russia. Make that clear and hear that clear and listen clear and clear. You are not the voice to the world. Even the United Nations is not the voice to the world because Africa does not have a permanency in the United Nations. So the United Nations cannot even make decision, and then you think Africa will buy it. Africa is not part of the United Nations. Just how the United States is not part of the ICC, and the United States cannot take her criminals to the ICC. That's the same way. If the UN come out with anything against any nation, Africa will not buy into it because Africa is not a permanent member of the UN. We don't have seat in the UN. I think it is about time Africans began to get the concept here. They are not a voice to the world. The UN is not the voice of the world. The UN is a voice to Europe, and the UN is a voice to America. And you have seen that's how the UN have operated or have been operating. You saw that in Ukraine. You saw the action the United Nations took in Ukraine. And you know what? It even slowed down a little bit because Africans have come to voice out about the biases of the UN when it comes to peace and security. Now, following today's meeting, Ambassador Ruben Bigoted admitted that he crossed the line. He crossed the line and apologized to the government and the people of South Africa. This is not the first, look, this is not an apology. This is not the first time the United States government have crossed the line. The United States government have crossed the lines in so many ways. The coup that was in Mali, the United States government crossed the line. The coup that were in Guinea recently, the United States government crossed the line. By killing Muammar Gaddafi, the United States government crossed the line. By destroying Libya today, the United States government crossed the line. Supporting the killing of African visionary leader and democratic leader, the United States government crossed the line. This is not the first time. This is what these people are good at. This is what they do. So this is not an apology. What they did here was to retreat because they knew the implication of what this was going to do to them. So we are not going to buy into this. We should not buy into this. We will not buy into this. This is not an apology. This is their tactics. But this time, a failed. That's all. The truth here is a failed. So they have retreated back on base. Are they going to come back with different fake propaganda? Of course, yes. This is just one of the many ones that failed. This. Now, the U.S. ambassador said, I was grateful for the opportunity to speak with Foreign Minister Nandiat Pendert. This is a South Africa Foreign Minister. This evening and correct any misimpression left by my public remark. You knew what you were doing here. You idiots of an ambassador. You knew what you were doing. This was planned. It was not something you just came from out of the blue moon. This was something even Washington, D.C. knew about. Because yes, this is what Washington, D.C. said here. Bigoted told reporter Thursday that the U.S., the United States was convinced. Then how can you say it? Misimpression led by any public remark. You think we don't know? English is not our language. We learn it, but we learn it to the fullest to understand or even to overstand it. Let me take this out. I'm not going to keep reading this. Let me take this out. So you see here, okay? This was just another tactics that was creating, another chaos that was created to capitalize on our chaos. Oh yes, African. We're going to see a lot of these things because the crumble of an empire is at hand. Don't take this to be fun. We have to be strong because things like this, we should expect it. They are going to come. But again, as we are expecting things of such, we should start building ourselves. What a militarily. Don't forget it. Don't get it twisted. If it is going to come to that point, it is going to come to that point. So African leaders, don't sleep on your leadership. Don't sleep on your nation. Don't sleep on the African continent. Mobilize the African continent. Start training army. One army. I'm not talking about training Nigerian army and then Ghanaian army and then Ivorian army. We are defeated if you have that kind of mindset. We need one United States Army of Africa. Period. Nothing less and nothing more. Because when you start training your individual colonial nation or national army, your individual colonial national army, first of all, what are you going to do? You're going to start fighting one another on the African continent. You're going to see Ghanaian fighting Ivorian. You're going to see Ivorian fighting Liberian. Army militarily will be fighting among one another. Instead of fighting the enemies, we will fight among one another. By the time we finish killing each other, we are powerless. And then the enemy come in and destroy the rest of the people that will survive. So get that clear as we are still exposing the West. Build yourself. Unite yourself. Build yourself militarily because it might come at that point. It might. And no one will protect us. No one will fight for us. And as you are doing that as well, all I can tell you is take away those so-called American military call themselves African on the African continent because you created it for yourself. You created that enemy ship for yourself in the first place. To have foreign military on your continent. Why do you think when their so-called diplomatic leaders are going to Africa, they don't worry? Because you know what? They know their armies are there. They know the United States Marines is there. They know the United States Navy is there. They know the United States warship, aircraft, air defense, they are there. You think they depend on, for example, if they are going to Ghana, do you think they depend on the Ghanaian military to protect them? You may think so because you will see Ghanaian military around. Okay, you will see them around standing. I think that they protecting our diplomat or our U.S. diplomat in Ghana. You damn lie. You damn lie. They are depending on their military that is already there. Their air force there. Their submarine there. You think they're depending on you to protect them? They just allow you to show off. You don't have military to protect them when they are on the African continent. That is why their armies are there to protect them anytime they want to move in, they move in. That is why their aircraft, their air defense force are there. Their ground defense force are there. Their sea defense force are there. Everywhere. How can an enemy come in your lane? And then they have their air defense force there. They have their base ground defense force there. They have their sea defense force there. Then where can you go? You go to the sea, they're there. You go to the air, they're there. You go to the land, they're there. You can't protect yourself. You can't fight for yourself. Your citizen can't go nowhere. Where can your citizen go? Anyway, I don't want to leave the topic, but it fall into it, so I will give it. Let's continue here. So that is what the United States did in South Africa. The boogeyman, the bully, Bully South Africa because South Africa is part of the BRICS nation. Because they have asked South Africa to arrest Putin. South Africa said, no, we are not going to arrest Putin. If you want us to arrest Putin on criminal charges, you, America, you have to go to the War Crime Court. How can you tell South Africa to arrest Putin, to take Putin to the RCC, when you, the United States, you are not part of the RCC? When you, the United States, you have committed heinous crime than even Putin. You have killed African leaders than Putin. I don't even know how many, in fact, I don't even know Putin have even killed one African leader. None. Putin have never killed any African leaders. Putin have never overthrown any African leaders. Putin have never carried coup d'etat in any African nation to honor any African leaders. But yesterday you did it in Guinea. Yesterday you did it in Mali. America, you did it. You just confessed in 2023 that the coup d'etat in Guinea, you did it. The coup d'etat in Mali, you did it. So you have committed a lot of crimes that you yourself, you need to be to the RCC. But no, you don't want to do that. And then you asking South Africa. Yesterday when you supported apartheid, you're supposed to be to the RCC. When you supported apartheid against Africans, that was a crime that should have taken you, that you should be to the RCC. But you said no. But you putting pressure on somebody. So when they said no, we are not doing it, and you get angry, you got a long time to be confused. You got a long time to be angry. Because the puppet yesterday that you use will not be the puppet today to use against themselves. Let's continue here. Let's see some of the responses. So, this is just a video, right? This is just a video stating the ambassador, the so-called idiots, okay, apologizing. This is just a video to show, about his apology, all right? But we don't take that as an apology. We take that as a retreat of the U.S. back on base because this plan did not work.
U.S. Ambassador to South Africa apologizes for false accusations. During a press conference on Thursday, May 11, 2023, U.S. Ambassador to South Africa Ruben Brigetti accused South Africa of supplying Russia with weapons and ammunition when sanctioned Russian ship Lady R was docked at Simonstown Naval Base in early December. According to AP, without giving evidence, Brigetti claimed, quote, "We, the U.S., are confident that weapons were loaded into that vessel, and I would bet my life on the accuracy of that assertion," unquote. According to The Nation, quote, "The South African National Conventional Arms Control Committee, which monitors and certifies all arms trade in and out of South Africa, says no arms or ammunition have been sold to Russia from South Africa," unquote. As per The Nation, quote, a spokesman for the presidency said on Friday that Washington would not be allowed to dictate South Africa's relations with other countries, and that U.S. Ambassador Ruben Brigetti would receive a démarche, a diplomatic reprimand of the highest order, unquote. When the U.S. Embassy in South Africa was contacted by the nation to clarify Brigatti's accusation, there was no immediate response. On Friday, South African Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor summoned Brigatti over the allegations made the previous day. According to AP, quote, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed an investigation was underway into the December visit by the Russian cargo ship Lady R. Before Brigatti went public, U.S. and South African officials had agreed behind the scenes that the investigation should be allowed to play out and would incorporate any evidence U.S. intelligence officials shared, unquote. According to the BBC, quote, writing on social media after meeting the foreign ministry, Brigatti said he was grateful for the opportunity to correct any misimpressions left by my public remarks, unquote. As a member of the BRICS, South Africa has remained neutral on the war in Ukraine and has therefore abstained from voting on the conflict at the UN.
All right. So that was a video, right? Showing the apology of what we just read, right? Now, another question. If this was indeed true, even though they have come to apologize, right? But that's not apology. We're not taking it. We are not taking it, all right? But let's just say this, all right? Do you think if it was true that indeed these people, what they were saying or what they said, that South Africa actually supply arm or ammunition to Russia, if it was actually true, number one, do you think they was going to apologize? Do you think they were going to apologize? That's the first question. The second question is, if it is actually, or it was actually true that South Africa did give ammunition to Russia, do you think they was going to go behind the scene like what they said? Do you think they was going to tell South Africa to go behind the scene, to go discuss it behind the scene? Never. It was never going to happen to go behind the scene to go discuss with South Africa, or for South Africa to go discuss with the U.S., to tell the U.S., oh, you know, we apologize. It was a mistake. We did support ammunition to Russia. Do you think the United States was going to agree? They was never going to agree. They was never going to allow South Africa to sit on the table. They was going to immediately take whatsoever action they want to take. They are already looking for something against African nation because the United States does not want African nation to rise. And indeed, no, we are not saying this because we hate the U.S. We don't hate the U.S. We are not saying this out of any other sentiment. Okay? We are saying this, and our tone are like this because of past history, because of current attitude of the U.S., because of what we experienced in the past and what we are still experiencing with the U.S. and EU. We are saying this as a reminder to remind us of the U.S. behavior and EU behavior. We are saying this to remind us, the imperialist, the oppressor, the enslaver, the colonizer behavior. We are saying this to educate us and to remind us of who we are dealing with. So we don't care about nobody. We care about Africans. And we are there to educate Africans. We are there to remind Africans. So if you think we are saying this, or if you think we are talking like this, we hate you, then so be it. If we think we are saying the truth and educating our people, our leaders, our authorities, I mean the Africans. If you see it as hate, then that's your business. This is not hate. We are speaking because of our history with you. We are speaking because of the present attitude and behavior with you. So we are speaking to remind ourselves, to educate ourselves, not to be mute and not to go back to sleep. We are saying this because the time has come to take our rightful place. What belongs to us? You cannot control what belongs to us. And you control what belongs to you. You control what belongs to you. We control what belongs to us. Period. That is why we speak like this. When we speak like this, we are telling you enough is enough. When we speak like this, we are telling you we already know what we know about you. When we speak like this, we are telling you you are not a good friend to partner with. When we speak like this, we are telling you many days, many times, you are stabbed up behind our back. When we speak like this, we are telling you many days, many times, you are not stick to your promises. We stick to our promises, but you don't stick to your promises. When we speak like this, we are telling you many days, many times, you are not a good partner. When we speak like this, we are telling you you have betrayed us in every agreement that we have made with you. When we speak like this, we are telling you your smile is fake. We smile with you with our mind, with our heart, with love. But after that, you go and do it. We smile with you. We encourage you into our society. We introduce you to business of equality. But you lie to us and you enslave us. And they did not stop there. You came and lied to us and divided our continent and ran our continent and gave us a fake Bible, gave us fake prayers, gave us fake promises that only the poor can go to heaven. The rich can go to heaven. So does that mean you do not want to go to heaven? You lie to us. Only the poor can inherit the earth. How can the poor inherit the earth when we are not making decisions of the earth, of the existence of God, of the creation of God? You say only the poor can enjoy God's creation. But the earth is God's creation. Then how can we poor, we cannot inherit or we cannot have control of God's creation? What God gave to us, we don't have authority over it. But you told us the poor will inherit the creation of the world, the creation of God. You did not explain it good to us, but we have come to realize it, that what you told us was the wrong one. Now we have come to actually interpret that word even better than you. Now you confuse when we speak that word. You confuse when we interpret what that word says. When we quote those scriptures and even better explained those scriptures to you, you get confused and you run away. We have come to realize it. So when we speak like this, we are just reminding you of your doing. That's not hate. Let's continue to the next part. Let's see what the EFF said. Okay, there are many things out there, but I don't want to get it crowded. So I just pick what I wanted that will fit to my presentation.
The third largest party in the National Assembly once the United States ambassador to South Africa, Ruben Briggedy, gone from South African soil. EFF National Chairperson Veronica Mente says Briggedy's claims were reckless and she deems them as a form of intimidation against South Africa. She was speaking to the media in Kempton Park, east of Johannesburg, where the EFF is holding its 3-day Central Command Team meeting. Brigady made allegations that South Africa was aiding Russia in its war with Ukraine, but has since apologized, according to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
We have called for the removal and he must just pack his bags and go back home. Because you cannot have a person who just get excited and start to be accusing a sovereign country in its own shores to say, no, this is what has happened. But at the very same time, we do blame Ramaphosa for thinking that which the ambassador said is qualifying for some kind of an investigation.
The EFF says the US wants to ensure that the upcoming BRICS summit takes place without Russian President Vladimir Putin's presence. The party has urged the ANC-led government to not be intimidated.
South Africa should not even shake a bit. If the BRICS summit is supposed to be here, it must happen. And no one here is going to arrest Putin. Because first and foremost, the US is not even the member of the ICC. How dare do they even begin to try and scare everyone else and try to drive through every other parties, the right-wingers, that Putin must be arrested? On what basis, when they haven't done the duty of which they signed for, when they have not arrested people who have committed all these atrocities across the globe?
The party argues that the BRICS summit will assist South Africa with its energy challenges, amongst others.
We must have the BRICS summit because we are also looking forward to that summit in terms of providing solutions to our economic downward spiral we see right now. We are looking for solutions for our energy supply.
The EFF also accused the United States of having double standards.
Them having the relationship with Israel when Israel is doing all those wrong things and committing all those atrocities to the people of Palestine that are today homeless, that today children of Palestine don't have a future. We do not know even most of them where they are, or they even still alive where they are. They are not even buried, some of them. So it gets to show that US does not have any good intention to assist the world in its operations and the well-being.
Meanwhile, on local matters, the party says it's opened a case of theft over the missing trucks in Ekurhuleni Metro, and it's hopeful that the matter will come to an end soon. Nhlanhla Khatlani, SABC News.
Okay, so that was the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighter of South Africa. And I love the energy of that queen mother, what she said. Exactly. All right? So the United States can back off. The United States can go in your closet and sit down and cry. We care less. They see you saw yesterday, you will weep it. If you did not know time like this was coming, now you know that time like this has come. And more time like this is coming. Because I don't know how you're going to manage to rise up, or I don't know how you're going to do it to convince Africans to actually believe you. I don't know. If you do it, so be it. But if you think African going to believe you, I don't think so, America. Because African gave you the chance, many chances, and you did not capitalize on it. In fact, you capitalize on it on a negative way. And you call African people inferiors, shithole, insignificant. Now, African people are telling you they are not shithole and you're angry. Now, African people are telling you they are not insignificant and you're angry. Now African people are telling you they are not inferior and you're angry. Now African people are telling you they are not just black. Okay? Black is anything. Black is anything. Black is anything. They think it's black. Black is anything. So African people are telling you they are not just black. They have identity. They have culture. They have way of life. And you turn angry. You turn better on yourself. Better for nothing, for no reason. You say you are the most eloquent, but you keep making mistake and mistake and mistake and mistake. And when African people want to correct you, you get angry for no reason. You say you have the most IQ, but you keep making mistake, 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 mistake. And when African people point out those mistakes, you get confused and you get angry for no reason. Let's continue. I don't think you will come out of it because the point I have reached, African gave you so many chances, but you dehumanize Africans. You dehumanize us. What do you want to do? Or what do you want for us to do now? Sorry, but we cannot rescue your empire at this time. If we are to rescue any empire, it's the African empire for the African people. We have to liberate ourselves. We are not here to liberate people who are not in our interest. We are here to liberate the African continent and African people. Because we believe if we liberate the African continent, life will be better, not only for African, but for all humanity. We believe if Africans are in charge, life will be better, not only for Africans, but for all humanity across the world. We believe there will be no demarcation, there will be no redlining. There will be no segregation. We believe there will be no bolus. We believe immigration will not question people based on their origin or their ethnicity or their background or the continent they're from. Immigration will not be set up in our way. We believe if Africans take control, the world will be a better place than the people that are in control. We believe if Africans are in control, there won't be proxy war. There won't be, how do you call it, weapons of mass destruction. Like how people that are in control today destroy the entire Middle East. Like how people that are in control today destroying Africa. Almost the entire African continent, no peace. It may seem to be peace, but there is no peace. Because I don't call that peace. I don't call that peace. So let's see something here. I want to read something here, okay? I just took one. Now, again, I want to remind the African media, the African channel. I want to remind those African writers, okay? Now, I want them to look at the Western media, all the Western media, go and look at it. All the Western platform, go and look at it. All the Western or American platform or media or EU, I mean, go and look at them. Regarding the issue that happened in South Africa, the allegation that America, Washington DC post on South Africa, go and look at the Western media. They all carry the same narrative. They themselves did not even investigate. They agree by what their authority told them. But you so-called African news paper or African news channel or African writers, you so-called Negro, you people are also the problem to Africa. You sell Africa negatively. You people also betray Africa. If you check all the Western media regarding their report about South Africa, about the claim that South Africa provide weapons to Russia, go and look at what they said. They all agree to Washington, D.C. They all agree to what the Western leaders said. For example, look at this other one, Fox News. Fox News said South Africa admit. So you see it. So there are people in the Western world. There are people, when they read this, first of all, they already agree that South Africa is bad. That Africa is bad. Africa does not like America. South Africa does not like America. South Africa betray America. South Africa on the side of Russia. South Africa support the invasion of Ukraine. South Africa does not like Ukraine. These are the things that we discuss. Because you see, South Africa admit to U.S. claim. So they're saying that South Africa agreed. But on the other hand, they have not gone to publish that America lie, that America is a liar, that Washington, D.C. is a liar. They have not yet published that Washington, D.C. lie on South Africa, Washington, D.C. lie on Africa, to say South Africa or Africa support Russia with ammunition. They have not yet published it. Because if they publish it, you know what will happen? Their people will now begin to say, but you know what? Why you people lying? You people came and told us South Africa admitted to the claim. Now you telling us again, we apologize to South Africa. You telling us that, oh, it was not true. So you see here, South Africa admit to U.S. claim that were shipped to Russia, staying. So you see it. So this is what I said. Look, African, let us be careful here. This is what I said. The U.S. did not apologize. Because you cannot apologize and you still have this rubbish on your website. You cannot apologize and you have not gone to take down this rubbish. Look at the headline. Look at the title. You cannot apologize and you have not yet gone to change this to say the United States lie on Africa. The United States lie on South Africa. South Africa did not supply ammunition to Russia. But you see, it's still on our website. And this is not only Fox News. If you check BBC, it's still there. If you check ABC News, it's still there. All their channel, if you check it, they still have it. It's there. They did not change it. But you African leaders, you people don't protect, African leaders, but the African writer, the news reporter, you people do not protect the African nation and you people do not protect the African continent. Because you people want Western sponsorship, you sell the African nation to the West. Because they gave you people finances. Now, let us be real here. Because you people were right and say African leaders, they are corrupt. Okay? African leaders are puppets. Okay? African leaders are being bought by the West. But equally so, you are also being bought by the West. You are the West want. Because any report coming from the African continent, and those in the West, the citizens of the West, when they read those reports from the African continent, what do you think? They believe it. Because just how they believe their news media in the West, if an African newspaper can bring a report about a claim, what do you think the people will not believe it? Because this is a source from the African continent. This is a source from an African nation. This is a source from an African writer or reporter. So I am just reminding you, you are also part of the problem, not just African leaders. You are also being bought. You are also a puppet. So the next time you go write about African leader being a puppet, think about what you have done as well to betray the African continent. I'm just reminding you, because when you check the Western media, this is what they placate. So this, they did as an apology, or the U.S. ambassador apologize, or Washington, D.C. apologize, because no, they did not apologize, because they still have this rubbish on their website. Let's continue. Let's continue here. Let's continue to the next part. Let's see what the South African government said, and then we go to our next phase of the discussion.
News. South Africa will not take sides in a contest between global powers, President Cyril Ramaphosa has said, as he hit out at the USA for falsely accusing his country of selling weapons to Russia. Ramaphosa wrote the no-nonsense response in his weekly letter, days after the U.S. ambassador, Ruben Brigidi, publicly made wild accusations in a press conference with the media.
All right, folks. So this is the idiots, this Negro, this betrayer, this puppet, this neo-colonialist, thinking that he's doing the right thing right there. But even in the U.S., his own people are being betrayed and killed 24/7. They don't give protection. But he's sitting here in South Africa there, betraying his African brothers and sisters for the white supremacy, for protecting the white empire. This is the Ruben guy here. A sellout. Idiots.
What can be termed as a media circus. Mr. Brigidi has since retracted the accusations in a half-hearted apology to the people of South Africa after being reprimanded by the South African government. In the letter, Ramaphosa noted, with the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022, there had been extraordinary pressure on the country to abandon its non-aligned position and take sides in what is in effect a contest between Russia and the West. Other countries on the African continent and elsewhere have been put under similar pressure, Ramaphosa lamented. He said reaching out across political divides and building relations with different countries has helped shape South Africa's foreign policy. This has been coupled with a belief in the value of an inclusive multilateral world order and the peaceful resolution of conflict through dialogue. South Africa is a member of the Non-Aligned Movement, a forum of 120 countries that are not formally aligned with or against any major power bloc. South Africa has also used its membership in other international forums like the G20 and BRICS groups to advance the views and interests of countries in Africa and the rest of the global South. Throughout, we have been firm on this point. South Africa has not been, and will not be, drawn into a contest between global powers, Ramaphosa said. The president reiterated that the country will not yield to pressure from the United States to take sides. Guided by the lessons of our history, we will continue to resist calls, from whatever quarter, to abandon our independent and non-aligned foreign policy, he concluded.
All right. I take it all right. So that's what the South African president said, or the government said. But there was something he said in there, guiding by our history. I'm just going to summarize it. Guiding by our history, our experience, right? We are going to protect South African foreign policy. Like I said, America, don't get angry when we speak like this. We are speaking because of past history and present behavior that you still exhibit. So when we are not supporting you, or when we We are not going against Russia as you want us to. Let me ask you, America. Let me ask this question. There's no need to even explain, but let me ask you, Washington, D.C. Let me ask you. Let me see, because I don't even know what kind of country that have fought alongside with you. I don't know, because it's kind of difficult to actually ask you this question because it is something that you have never experienced. But let's say, hypothetically, right? Let's say if you were South Africa, let's put it this way. Let's say if you were South Africa and South Africa is America and Russia is still Russia. Very good. Good analysis, right? If you, America, Washington, D.C., were South Africa and South Africa is America and Russia is still Russia from the past and to the present. And you're in a situation where yesterday South Africa supported apartheid against America. Okay? South Africa gave ammunition to Asia to kill American. Right? South Africa supported the humiliation, the torture, the killing of American. All right? South Africa called George Washington or Thomas Jefferson a terrorist, because I'm giving an analysis. I change it around, right? Because you call Nelson Mandela a terrorist. So, like I said, change it around. Let reverse it, right? Now, if you were the one yesterday, South Africa called Thomas Jefferson or George Washington a terrorist. If you were the one yesterday where South Africa imprisoned Thomas Jefferson or George Washington for 27 years, and George Washington or Thomas Jefferson was free, and then South Africa called Thomas Jefferson or George Washington a terrorist, right? And then it was Russia yesterday, and today is still Russia. It was Russia yesterday that came to the aid of America against South Africa. It was Russia yesterday that came and supplied ammunition to America to fight Asia against apartheid, to fight South Africa against apartheid. It was Russia. It was Russia that made this current generation of America to live that yesterday yesterday Asia did not kill them with the support of South Africa. What could you have done today? Well, Russia, let's say, South Africa, right? Well, South Africa. Or let's say, well, South Africa now is not coming to the United States, telling the United States to go against Russia. Well, South Africa have possession against Russia. Now South Africa is telling the United States to go against Russia for the interest of South Africa. What could you have done today? Could you have abandoned Russia? Or could you have been there for Russia? Could you have explained to South Africa that no, yesterday, when you are supporting apartheid against Americans, it was Russia that fought for us. It was Russia that gave all the ammunition. It was Russia that gave her financial support. It was Russia that came and fought alongside with us when you supported apartheid with Asia against America. It was Russia. Could you have turned your back against Russia today? No, let's turn the table around. Let's reverse it. Let's reverse it. Because today, you are looking at South Africa as a betrayer. Today, you are looking at South Africa as not a partner. Today, you are looking at South Africa the way you want to view South Africa. Today, you are looking at South Africa supporting a government, a bad government like Putin. A bad government like Putin government. You are supporting. Today you are against South Africa, right? So let's turn the table around. Let's turn the table around. If that were you, could you have abandoned Russia today? If that were you, could you have arrested or could you arrest Russia today when South Africa told you or South Africa come to you and say you need to arrest Putin so Putin can go to the ICC? Could you have done it? Could you have gone to arrest Putin? Or could you have told South Africa that, no, we are not arresting Putin because yesterday you were against us, Putin came for us. Yesterday you were killing us, Putin saved us. Yesterday you supported apartheid, Putin were against apartheid. That could have been your statement and that could have been your stand. So what is good for you is good for African, is good for South African. What you did yesterday, that's what haunting you today. What you did yesterday, that is what haunting you. So let's change the table around. You are not going to betray Russia. So if you are not going to betray Russia, why do you want for African to betray Russia? Yesterday, Russia did not betray us. Yesterday, Russia did not fight alongside with apartheid when you fought alongside with apartheid. Yesterday, Russia did not spend her finances to apartheid to kill African. Yesterday, Russia did not bring her ammunition to apartheid to kill African, but you did it. You never spoke against Asia. You never spoke against apartheid. Russia spoke against apartheid. Russia spoke against Asia. In fact, you called Nelson Mandela a terrorist. When Russia called Nelson Mandela freedom fighter, you are calling Nelson Mandela a terrorist. To get to, I don't think you got my analysis. Either you just coming up. I said, let's reverse it. I know Jefferson was a terrorist if we actually want to put it into the perspective. I know George Washington was a terrorist if we actually want to put it into the perspective. I said, change it around. Let reverse it. Where South Africa was America, and then America was South Africa yesterday during apartheid time. And then let's reverse it and say Thomas Jefferson, right, or James or Madison was Nelson Mandela. Let's reverse it. Okay? Was America going to go against South Africa, or was America going to be for South Africa and then go against Russia? So reverse it. So we are just telling America, if it was you that was in a position or that South Africa is in today, you was never going to go against Russia. So I don't think that example is a bad example. I'm just letting America to understand South Africa stand, African stand. So reverse it. So let's say Thomas Jefferson or George Washington was Nelson Mandela. That's my analysis. I hope you got it. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. I'm not saying Thomas Jefferson was a good man. I'm saying let's reverse it and put America in South Africa and put South Africa in America here. Okay? And then reverse the story around. And then Thomas Jefferson was Nelson Mandela, or James or Madison was Nelson Mandela. They were the freedom fighter. And then Russia came on their behalf. And then today, South Africa is telling them what to do. It's telling America what to do against Russia. Was Russia going to do it? I mean, let's say, was America going to do it to go against Russia, or America was going to be neutral, or America was going to stand for Russia and be against South Africa? So the analysis is not even for you and myself. The analysis is for America to understand, which of course I know she will not understand because she's all looking at her foreign policy. But the analysis is for them, for Washington, D.C. I know Thomas Jefferson was a terrorist, a rapist. George Washington was a rapist, a terrorist. If we want to compare that into today's terrorism, they will. But what I'm saying, change the table around, reverse it. Bring South Africa into North America, and then take North America, the United States, to Africa and place it there. And then go back to apartheid time. That's my analysis. Let's continue here. So that analysis, the U.S. was never going to be for South Africa. The U.S. was going to be to Russia's side. So henceforth, we are neutral. We support those who support us. We support those who support our interests. We support those who support our struggle. That's what Nelson Mandela said. Let's get to the next point. The next point here is the so-called American democracy. Now, over the past years, we have had so many U.S.-Africa leadership summits, right? Now, the United States is still going on the African continent, still carrying on her democracy, her fake democracy to the African people. Look, America, African people does not need American people democracy. Because the American democracy is not a democracy. It's a failed state. The American democracy, name me one country in Africa where America has promoted democracy. There is no country in Africa. In fact, not name me one country in the world. Let me broaden it. Name me one country, America, name me one country in the world where America have prevailed. America have taken democracy. That country is actually on a democracy. If not the people, but we say America. There's no country in the world that America have promoted democracy. What does that mean? America herself does not have democracy. America herself does not believe in democracy. How can a nation that does not believe in democracy go to other nations and be telling them about democracy? When she herself have not yet defined democracy, when she herself is still struggling on a path to democracy, when she herself does not even want democracy, as we speak, America does not want democracy, because if America actually practice democracy, there will be no way for the elite. There will be no way for elitism. America run on elitism, not democracy. America run on few. Minority, not a majority. So how can a country that run on minority come and tell you about majority decision? How can a country where the minority make decision, but rather go to another country to tell you the majority should make the decision when they run on minority? Let's get that clear. People that make the decision for the United States, they are not the majority. They are the minority. Then how can such nation classify herself as a democratic institution or nation, running on the African continent, lying to African leaders? If any African leader accept that, you are accepting to be inferior to the United States. You are accepting to be the inferior race. You are accepting to be a 3/5 of a lesser human being. You are accepting to be a man without IQ, a man with low IQ. Let's continue here. Let's continue to something here. Let's see the video first, and then we continue to what I want to say. So, after the U.S. 2021, 2022 so-called African, U.S. Africa or African Leadership Summit, which of course we spoke about it, and we said it will fail, it will never hold, because the devil will always be the devil. The deceiving one will always be deceiving. One who deceived you from the past will always deceive you in the present. They will just be so, like they will just find a way to be more sophisticated in how they will deceive you. Now, the United States is taking her leadership, her so-called U.S.-Africa Leadership Summit to the African continent. And guess what? It's all about democracy, democracy, democracy. Like we say, how can a nation where the minority make decisions for the majority come and talk to you about democracy? Then the U.S. is yet to define to us, to the world, what democracy is. Because if a nation where the minority make decisions for the majority, that is not democracy. Then she is yet to come and define what democracy is. Maybe the U.S. is studying or democracy is where the minority make decisions for the majority. Then in our case, we will agree. Now the question will be, do we want to follow the kind of leadership of America where the minority make decisions for the majority? Let's see something here.
Got time to turn to the funniest story of the week. Joe Biden is currently holding a democracy summit in Southern Africa. That's right, in the very place where the United States and the United Kingdom and France and all the other so-called West supported racist, apartheid, white supremacist states right up until the very end. Margaret Thatcher, I was there, saw her lips move, called Nelson Mandela a common terrorist. The United States took Mandela off the terrorist list in 2008, in the 18th year of his presidency of the Republic of South Africa. And I got to thinking when I saw a very harrowing picture posted by one of my friends on Twitter earlier this evening. It's a picture that deserves to be seen far more widely. You'll find it on my Twitter feed. It's a picture of the Congo's first Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, half naked, in shackles, being pushed down aircraft steps by a Belgian military officer after his overthrow in a coup organized and executed by Britain, Belgium, and the United States of America. The newly elected President Jack Kennedy knew nothing of this coup, and the CIA defied him, lied to him, and conducted this coup behind their new president's back. But it happened. The CIA, MI6, and the hated Belgian colonist government that was finally having to leave power took this fine man, probably the greatest of all African leaders, and murdered him. They then dismembered him. They then dissolved him in acid and sent one of his teeth back to Brussels for safekeeping, for DNA. It was only returned to the Congo last year. The West murdered Patrice Lumumba. The West helped keep Nelson Mandela in prison for 27 years, most of them on Devil's Island, Robben Island, in the dungeons of apartheid. The West supported racist apartheid rule in the very southern Africa. They're now holding a summit in to tell Africans how important their democracy is. There's the picture of the hero, Patrice Lumumba, being led down the steps of that aircraft to his death, his dismemberment, and his dissolving in acid. You couldn't make it up. And they wonder why Africans are utterly unmoved at their pleas to reject China and Russia and embrace them instead? China never occupied a square inch of Africa. Russia never occupied a square inch of Africa. As a matter of fact, when the West was supporting apartheid and white supremacist rule in southern Africa, it was the Russians who were arming, financing, and providing the diplomatic skeleton, backbone for the worldwide activities of the anti-apartheid movement, of the movement for liberation in southern Africa. I have many times spoken at the Patrice Lumumba University for the Friendship of the Peoples. It's not in San Francisco, it's not in London, and it certainly isn't in Brussels. It's in Moscow, it's in Russia. I have been there, spoken there many times. Does that little vignette not explain something to you, the viewers, and the wider public about why Russia will never hate China? China is building roads, railways, terminals, ports, harbors, infrastructure all over Africa. All the so-called West did was loot it and steal even the people of Africa themselves, chain them in the holds of ships, sailed them through the Middle Passage, tossing thousands of them overboard when they died as food for the sharks, and then those lucky enough to reach land were placed as beasts of burden in chains as slaves. You want Africans to support you, Mr. Biden, Mr. Sunak, Miss von der Leyen, Mr. Borrell, the people you just described as the people of the jungle while you sat in your garden. How does your garden grow now, Mr. Borrell? Have you seen the streets of France?
Okay, so after the 2022 failed U.S. Africa Leadership Summit, Joe Biden and Blinken and U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and their cabinet and their congressmen and women came out with another tactics to still get African, right? And their title was all about democracy, business democracy. We're going to get into it, all right? Business democracy, digital democracy, technology democracy, all kind of democracy. Everything they spoke about, it related to democracy. Everything they spoke about, it related to democracy. So I don't want to take much time because my battery from the computer is running low. But what this gentleman said, how can we betray people who fought alongside with us, right? To be on the side of people who did all these horrible things to us. How can we be friends with people that deliberately killed our democratic visionary Patrick Lumumba of DRC Congo? Up to today, DRC Congo have not seen peace since 1884 Berlin Conference. There have never been peace in DRC Congo since the 1884 Berlin Conference. Tens of millions of Congolese have died from the result of that 1884 Berlin Conference up to today, from the result of the continual interference of Washington, D.C. Yes, it was Washington, D.C. that wrote a letter to Seseko Mobutu, telling Mobutu to leave office. It was his time not to leave because Mobutu did not support or were not in the interest of American selfish interest by foreign policy. And Mobutu said, it is time to develop my country for my people. And he wrote, how dare the United States to write letter to a seated African leaders, president. You write a letter to tell that person to leave office. It is his time. And you want to come out today to lecture African about democracy? Is that democracy? Writing letter to remove an African leader, to tell an African leader you got to go? I thought democracy is by the people, the voice of the people. I thought democracy is decided by the people. But you sat down and wrote letter telling a leader of another country to leave. It was his time to leave. And you coming today to tell us, to lecture us about democracy? How dare you? Not just that, not just DRC Congo, not just Patrice Lumumba alone, you have done it to. You have done it to almost all of the African countries in Africa, and African nations out of Africa. You did it to Haiti. When you remove the people first democratic elected president, America, you do not support democracy. How can a nation that does not support democracy come to lecture us about democracy? All of African democratic elected president for the people, of the people, but the people, America removed them. America undermined them. America created a coup d'etat against them. Only because if those countries actually practice what is perceived as democracy, American foreign policy interest will not prevail in those countries. Then how can such a nation like America come and host a summit, come and create a summit to lecture us about democracy? How can a nation where few make decisions for the majority come and lecture us about democracy? That is why in African nation, because few people make decisions for America or for American people, that is what in African nations, America support dictators. That is why today Farouk of Congo, they are still in power. That is why today Paul Biya of Cameroon is still in power, because America support dictatorship. America support tyrannical government. America support people who oppressed their people. America do not support people who want the betterment of their people. Then how can such nation come to you, African leader, to tell you to host summit about what democracy is? Have you ever asked America to define democracy for you when you are going for those so-called failed summit? Have you? Have you? Let's continue. Let's continue here. Let's continue here. So, this was the United States government, the United States president, Joseph R. Biden, that told African people, that told black people, if you don't vote for me, you are not black enough. If you don't vote for me, you are not African American enough. But when they voted for him, what did he prove to them? That they are African enough, that they are African American enough for voting for him. The torture, the humiliation, the killing, the injustices, the inequality, the justice system still operate just how it operated when he was a senator in 1994, when he passed the Crime Bill. Just how in the Senate it's been operating. Just how in past leadership it's been operating. It is still operating under his leadership as a president of the United States. How can such men still summon African people to tell them about democracy? Why is the United States so interested about democracy only focus on Africa? Why can't you go to the Middle East? Why can't you go to Dubai? Why can't you go to Qatar? The Qatarian, ask them and preach to them about democracy. Why so much Africa? Summit for Democracy 2023. That was the title, Summit for Democracy 2023. What kind of democracy the United States want for African leaders to practice? When you were against Nkrumah, you were against Thomas Sankara, you were against Patrice Lumumba, you were against Amilcar Cabral, you were against Steve Biko, you were against Jomo Kenyatta, you were against Julian Nyerere, you were against what a man just died from Tanzania. You were against all these people. John Magufuli, you were against them. These were all great leaders of the continent. These were all democratic thinkers. You were against them. Then what kind of democracy are you talking about? You bring it to African people. You never work with these people. You honor them until you kill them, directly or indirectly. You put sanction on these people. Then what kind of democracy you want for African people to talk about? Or the recent one. Gaddafi, you kill him. Because as far as I'm concerned, I would say Libya was a democratic state. States. Because the citizens enjoy their resources. The citizens have voice to speak. Not what Western media portray about Libya or about Libya under Gaddafi. Yes, the citizens work. The citizens benefited from their resources. They gave them free horses when they get married. Any of them want to go out of the country, out of Libya for education, the government sponsor it. Free universities in Libya, free schools in Libya. So what kind of, so I would say that was a democracy. Libya never travel out to seek medical attention. Their diplomats seek medical attention in their country because the facilities were there. That was a democracy. You know why I take such democracy over the United States democracy? It's because since they killed Gaddafi and instead they wanted to give Western or Americanized democracy to Libyan has suffered tremendously. Libya has died. If you see the statistics of Libyans that have died under the leadership of Obama, under the leadership of American democracy in Libya, you can only compare it to the Libyan that died under Gaddafi. Less. More Libyans have died under the leadership of the American democracy. Go and look at the statistics and see what I'm talking about. More Libyans have suffered. If I honor the leadership of the American democracy in Libya, no free schools. Under the leadership of the American democracy, the Obama-led American democracy in Libya, no free education, no free lunch, The people do not even benefit from their oil as they did under the leadership of Gaddafi. The people they are starving. They did not starve under the leadership of Gaddafi, but under the leadership of American-led, Obama-led American democracy, the people are starving, no food, no safe drinking water. They cannot even travel out of the country to have free education as it was under the leadership of Gaddafi. Then how can such nation still lecture African leader about democracy? I don't get it. I don't think any African leader should be sitting with America on a table or on a summit, even talking about democracy. I think they should by now put America in your place. They should by now educate America about, don't lecture about democracy. In fact, they shouldn't even be attending any summit that America will come out with a theme to say democracy. They should not attend such meeting. I don't think by now it should be. Let's continue here. March 28th, okay? So they have this democracy, okay, meeting. So the U.S. Agency for International Development hosted a full day, 4-session event led by Administrator Samantha Powell that highlighted new approaches and partnership that strengthen democracy, human rights, and governance. First of all, let's stop over there. America is not a country that believes in human rights. Let's say that for facts. America is not a country that believes in equality. Let's say that for facts. How can America tell us, African, about human rights when she violated the people of Guinea with coup? When she violated the people of Mali of coup? When she violated the people of Libya, destroy Libya, kill Gaddafi? Many places. When she violated the people of DRC Congo today. The list can go on. The list go on. Let's continue here. I'm just telling you so you can see it. Now, there's one thing I want to talk about here. A just land lasting peace in Ukraine. Right? I want to talk about this and see the hypocrisy of the US and EU. The US Department of State hosted a panel session chaired by Secretary Antony Blinken about the need for a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. When have these so-called democratic leaders talked about lasting peace in Africa? When have they spoken about lasting peace in DRC Congo? When? Because they do not want peace in DRC Congo. Peace in DRC Congo means no more looting of the people's resources. Peace in Africa means no more taking advantage of the African resources and of the African people. That is not to say we are against peace in Ukraine. We are just reminding African leaders not to even be attending such meeting with these people. They are hypocrites. Let's continue here. They said another topic, the complex path to achieving democratic dividend. I mean, you see, like all democratic. Demonic cratics. Okay? So you see right here, another one, anti-corruption as a cornerstone of a fair, accountable, and democratic economy. Matter of fact, hold on. Let me see here if I can show something. Okay, good. I'm going to take this article. Matter of fact, I'm going to take this article. Okay. So, I mean, they are all here. So I'm going to show something here. All right. So they say anti-corruption as a cornerstone of a fair, accountable, and democratic economic. Then I will come up to this. And then it says strengthening union, safeguarding democracy. I mean, look. And then another one, the status of women in the status of democracy. You have to say, even in America here, women have democracy. You have to say they respect women in America here. You know what? Look here. 2023 Forum on Business and Democracy. Man. So you see right here, right? But let me see. But I want to talk about something here. I'm going to take this out. I want to talk about this right here. This right here, I'm going to elaborate on it more here. Anti-corruption as a cornerstone of a fair, accountable, and democratic economy, right? I'm going to elaborate on that more from the video. Okay? Let me see, since when America have talked about accountable, fair economic, let's see something here. Let's see something. So that is why when African leaders, before you go to such summit, know the intention of the West. And then you will question them. And then you will battle them. But let's see something here. Let's see something here quick. Let's see something here. Okay? Let's see something here quick. Just because of that, I'm going to show something. Hopefully, I'm going to show something. Just because of that, I'm going to show something here so we can elaborate on that. Let me see here. Hopefully, okay. Let me see here. Just because of that, I'm going to show this so we can elaborate on our topic.
Makes African and third world debt different from the American debt. Number one, America is never going to pay its debt. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in US dollars. Africa has to earn the US dollars. The only way it can earn the US dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent, doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank, the International Bank for IBRD, the World Bank, is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the third world should only grow export crops.
All right, so they talk about fair share business, right? They talk about economy, right? So economy will talk about business, we'll talk about food, agriculture, all that fall under economy, right? And then they talk about independent, right? Now, independent, we can talk about what? The governmental system, the governance system, right? Independent, right? We don't have to, okay, go by the so-called American democracy, all right? We go by a leadership that will fit to our way of life, our culture, right? Based on our culture, we go by the kind of leadership that will fit. As long as the people are happy and the means of production of goods or services are being provided to the people, that's all we need. As long as the people are striving and making better life than even people in the West, as long as services of goods and resources, our resources are being at the disposal of our people, and our people are actually vividly 100% involved of their determination, what determines them as a people. That's all we need. We do not need America to come and tell us how life, how rule, how law, the kind of government we need. Now, how can America lecture us about democracy, right? When America only won the African continent to produce raw material and be taken to the West. We shouldn't process it. How can America want a fair share business with Africa, but she does not want Africa to grow her own food? Because she wants for American product to come to the African continent. That's business. So America got to protect her agriculturalists, because when they grow their food, they don't want for America to consume it at all. America can consume some. but they also want to export some. The money will stay here. So all that means is the capital is staying here. Now, what is another part? We are still protecting the American dollars because those farmers that are exporting their product to Africa, we are using the American dollars to buy those products. With the African resources coming from the African continent, the raw material, and sending it to the West, then the West process it into finished product, and then they bring it to us. Then we say the white man's smart. Oh yes, that's what African people say on the African continent. The white people are smart. That is not to say I'm even looking down on them, but that is what African people say on the African continent. White people are smart. Tell me, look at white people make all these things. Not knowing we can also make these things because the material of these things come from the African continent. But when we see it, we say white people are smart. White people are brilliant. White people create these things for their people. White people create the environment for their people. So you see the kind of democracy America won for the African people, for the African continent. The kind of democracy that will constrain Africans from producing. The kind of democracy that will constrain Africans from having a democratic leader actually that will be for the people. America have never, tell me in history, where America has supported a true democratic leader on the African continent. America have never supported a true democratic governor on the African continent. Because a true democratic governor on the African continent means the interests of America will not be protected over the interests of that nation. That's the kind of democracy America won, where that nation will protect the interests of America over the interests of the people in that country. In fact, America won a democracy where the American interests will be protected over that country's constitution. How can you, as a nation, as a leader, protect foreign policy interests over your constitution, over your national constitution? That means you don't even love yourself. You are going against yourself. That's the kind of democracy America talking about. But America will never support foreign interests over her constitution. Because if you support foreign interests over your constitution, that means you don't value your people, you less value your people. That means you are not there to provide protection for your people. And America is not willing or is not there to protect protection for other people over her citizens, over her country, over her constitution. Why you Africans should do it? You know why? Because you see yourself as individual nation. You still protect colonial nation. You still protect colonial bolos. That is why. That's the kind of democracy America talking about to practice. But let's see what global perspective says or say about this so-called America democracy or Washington, D.C. democracy. Let's see something here. This is WCC. We don't speak on opinion. We speak on facts. We go and do it and bring it. So let's see what global perspective says. Now, this is what they say, okay? This is what they say. Council. So this is what it says, okay? So global perspective on the second summit for democracy, okay? April 5th, 2023. So the second summit that was held this year, because the first one was held 2022. So this 2023, this year, it was held, right? See what it did here. Look at Joe Biden sitting here. He's sitting here commanding all these people, all right? Let's see something here. So listen to what it said. So these are global perspectives. So listen to what it said here, okay? Let me just say, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to tell you what they say is not about this whole summit. So they said more from the Council of Councils. So this is what he said. However, because the reason why they say however, they talk about past summit that were held under Obama, because Obama initiated this, the neo-colonial agenda, okay, to protect white supremacy. By the way, Joe Biden is a white supremacist. Let me make that clear. All right. So, and then 2022, it was also held. And then 2023, they have it again. So, they talk about all of those, right? That's why you see they say, however. So now they say, however, in a globalized world, democracy cannot and does not endure in isolation. Let's explain that first, what it means. But democracy cannot and does not endure in isolation. That is to say, they are actually going at America. America, how can you talk about democracy, right? But nations that want to protect their values, that want to protect their constitution, that want to protect their interests, you put sanction on them. For example, Mali, the so-called 2022 U.S.-Africa Summit, when Mali decided to take her national resources from foreign corporations to make it state-owned. What Joe Biden himself dropped out Mali from that summit. And I think it was Mali or Burkina Faso. Joe Biden told them not to attend the summit. So they isolated that nation only because that nation seek to protect her national interests, seek to protect her national resources for her people, for the people, and of the people. Joe Biden isolated that nation because Joe Biden had the financial power, because Joe Biden have the media power to say anything, and her media or their media will run with it to make that particular nation look ugly and stupid, to make that nation look the devil. That's the kind of isolation. So that is why Global Perspective went ahead and says no. With the behavior of the United States not willing to listen to the interests of other country, other nation, other leader, this global democracy will fail. It will not hold. Let's continue. That is just one example, but there are many nations the U.S. do not listen to. Let's continue. They also said the summit needs to convince a large global and regional path for democracy, like we just explained. For example, the United States needs to listen to South Africa's interests, while South Africa is not against Russia. So you got to listen to other national interests. You got to listen to what they stand for, what they believe in, what they support, what they are against and not against, what they are against or what they are for. That is why this global summit of democracy or what will fail, it will not hold. They are just saying what is in the package. The summit need to convene a large global and regional path for democracy. All states should coordinate to address the problems that erode the sustainability of national democracies and the global democratic system. America does not believe in this because America wants to see herself as the powerhouse of the world. This is what it will not hold. Because America in reality does not actually preach democracy, does not actually believe in democracy. These are global perspective. Let's continue again. The origin of such problem are massive migration flow, the growth of criminal mafia, M-A-F-I-A-S, criminal mafia. Who are the criminal mafia? The West. The Western world are the criminal mafia. NATO nation are the criminal mafia. What they did to Gaddafi? What they did to Libya. Currently, what's going on in Sudan? Criminal mafia are in what is going on in Sudan right now. Criminal mafia. Why do you think these people are not part of the RCC? Think they are the criminal mafia. Inequality of kinds. Inequality. America or the West or EU, they are not there for equality. They are not there to listen to the African nations. If they were doing that, they won't go by creating proxy war, coup d'etat. What did America do with the TPA in Ethiopia? Did America support the government? Or America was giving ammunition to the rebels, to the terrorists? There are many examples, America, that you see Africa don't believe in you. And it's not going to take any time soon for Africa to believe in you. Maybe it will never even happen again. And it said, in the growth of various types of violence, the growth of various types of violence, proxy war, coup d'etat, terrorist activities. You got the largest African army on the African continent, but you don't fight for Africans. You support the terrorist activities on the African continent. You support dictator. You support tyranny. You don't support democracy. Various types of violence on the African continent. Now you can explain it for yourself. So that is why this so-called American form of democracy, it will not hold. Let's see our last part here, what Nelson Mandela told us about America and the West, and then we can close for the day. Now, this current video I'm about to show is like Nelson Mandela is still alive. It's current.
Suffering from that. Who are they now to pretend that they are the policemen of the world? If there is a country that has committed unspeakable atrocities in the world, it is the United States of America. They don't care. They don't care for human beings. 57 years ago, when Japan was retreating on all fronts, they decided to drop the atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Killed a lot of innocent people who are still suffering from the effects of those bombs. Those bombs were not aimed against the Japanese. They were aimed against the Soviet Union to say, look, this is the power that we have. If you dare oppose what we do, this is what is going to happen to you. Because they are so arrogant, they decided to kill innocent people in Japan who are still suffering from that. Who are they now to pretend that they are the policemen of the world? If there is a country that has committed unspeakable atrocities in the world, it is the United States of America. They don't care. They don't care for human beings. 57 years ago, when Japan was retreating on all fronts, they decided to drop the atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Killed a lot of innocent people who are still suffering from the effects of those bombs. Those bombs were not aimed against the Japanese. They were aimed against the Soviet Union to say, look, this is the power that we have. If you dare oppose what we do, this is what is going to happen to you.
Now, we're going to close with this video, right? But let me just add my 1 or 2 thoughts to it. Now, he said, after he spoke, he said, who are they now? Right? I want you to reflect on that, on what we just said here, what we brought out here. Okay? Because Nelson Mandela said, who are they now, today? And this video will always be current. Who are they now? The US and Europe. Who are they now to come and tell us about democracy? Who are they now to come and tell us about who is a criminal, who is not a criminal? Can you that watching right now, and you that will watch the recording, can you ever one day sit and imagine yourself calling Nelson Mandela a terrorist? Can you one day ever in your lifetime think that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist? That is why Nelson Mandela said, who are they now? The same people that call me terrorist, those are the same people coming to you today talking about democracy. How can you believe such people? Nelson Mandela is telling you African leaders, we Africans, do you believe that I was a terrorist? How can you work with those people? How can you believe them about democracy? When now I'm fighting for democracy, when now I'm fighting for all, they say I was a terrorist. How can they come to you to tell you about democracy when they said to you I was a terrorist? Do you believe that I was a terrorist? So he's asking you. I don't think you have ever want to believe that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. I don't think you will ever believe one day that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Who are they now? Who is America now to come and tell us about democracy? That is what Nelson Mandela is asking. Who are they? Who are they now? The same people that supported apartheid against us. Who are they now to come and tell us about democracy? The same people that gave ammunition to Russia, to Israel, to demonize, to torture, to rape, loot, kill South Africans. And it was Russia that was there for us. Nelson Mandela is asking you, who are they now for them to come to South Africa to tell South Africa to abandon Russia? Who are they now? Because I believe, look, if Nelson Mandela was alive today, Nelson Mandela was never going to go against Russia. That is what Nelson Mandela said. Who are they now to come to South Africa to tell South Africa to arrest Putin? Who are they now? Who are they to tell South Africa to take Putin to the RCC when they themselves, they are not part of the RCC? Nelson Mandela said, who are they now? When they themselves committed the worst atrocity in the world, Nelson Mandela said, who are they now? When they themselves honor Mane, Nkrumah, and wanted to assassinate him, Nelson Mandela says, who are they now? When they themselves planned the killing of Patrick Lumumba, they themselves killed Patrick Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Nelson Mandela is asking, who are they now to talk about human rights, to talk about democracy? When they killed Amilcar Cabral, Steve Biko, Nelson Mandela is asking, who are they, the US, the EU? Who are you people now When you did not believe, Nelson Mandela is asking you, you as did not believe in the leadership of him. If you did not believe in the leadership of him, that's why they call him terrorist. He's asking you. So who are they now for them to come to you for you to believe them? Who are they when they never believe in him? Who are they when they kept him in prison for 27 years for standing against injustices? And they fear him with poison so he can die. Nelson Mandela is saying, who are they now? They wanted to kill him because he believed in freedom for his people. He was the voice for his people. He was the strength for his people. He was the mobilizer for his people. He was the organizer for his people. And they imprisoned him. There were not only Nelson Mandela, there was many African leaders who believed in freedom and self-determination. Oh yes, Nelson Mandela is asking, who are they now who do not want the African Socialist People Party to speak out against the ill? Nelson Mandela is asking, who are they now then to come to you? When they do not want to listen to African communities who are speaking against the injustice they held against African people. But they dehumanize African people and put false claim against them and take them to court. Nelson Mandela is asking, who are they now? Who are they? When they refuse to work with African visionary. They kill them. Who are they now? When they refuse to work with our leaders that wanted the betterment for Africa, who are they now? People are still wanting and dining with Farouk of Togo. Who are they now? Who are they? We continue to ask them. We want the United States to come and answer Nelson Mandela. Who are you now? Answer him. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on. This is today's presentation. This is today's message. Share, like, subscribe, and talk about it. Let us unite. Let us continue to expose. Let us continue to educate our people. We do not hate anybody. We speak like this because we want to educate ourselves. We want to remind ourselves. That's why we speak like this. We want to remind ourselves that we cannot go back to the old days. We move forward like Kwame Nkrumah said. Backward never, forward ever. Thank you for being on, and I will see you guys Friday.